success stories and challenges, and it's so great that we have this conference in our community for us all to come together at least once a year to support each other. We are very blessed today to have our keynote speaker with us. In fact, he just flew in late last night from San Francisco and made it a point to be here for this conference today to share with us. How many of you have had the opportunity to work with Kelvin Taketa? Like probably 2/3 of this room, right? A very wonderful guy. He is President and Chief Executive Officer, as you know, of the Hawaii Community Foundation, the largest foundation in the state that works with individuals, families, foundations, government agencies, and organizations to transform lives and improve our communities. He was appointed to the position in 1998, and since then the foundation has launched several major initiatives to bring together local and national funders with government agencies. And this is what I love about Kelvin's direction of HCF. He brings all of these partners together to really address critical issues and develop grant opportunities and have a positive impact on our state and the future of our states for all of us. In fact, last year, HCF administered over $47 million for programs in Hawaii. And Kelvin's been recognized by the Nonprofit Times as one of the 50 most influential and powerful people in the nonprofit sector. He was born and raised in Hawaii. He graduated from Colorado College and received his Juris Doctor degree from the University of California's Hastings College of Law. He has spent his entire career in the nonprofit world, but he has also worked in the for-profit industry. He helped found the Nature Conservancy of Hawaii as its executive director, and then managed the fundraising, government relations, and communications functions for the Nature Conservancy out of its headquarters in Washington, D.C. He then led the creation of the Nature Conservancy's programs in the Asia Pacific region, and he had over 18 years at the Nature Conservancy and received several national awards for that leadership. He also founded and managed Sunrise Capital LLC, which is a multi-million-dollar private equity company focused on aquaculture ventures in Hawaii, and he is on numerous corporate and nonprofit boards. But here's where it gets really particularly exciting for everyone in this room. Next year, HCF celebrates its centennial, 100 years of helping Hawaii, and the way HCF is celebrating it is not by going out and raising a whole bunch more money for HCF. Kelvin really sat down and said, we want to look at how we can help sustain the nonprofit community in general in Hawaii, and that's going to be our mission back to the community as a celebration of our centennial. The great news about it is he sees the potential for billions of dollars to come back to our community through these efforts. So now that I have your attention with big numbers, how about a warm round of applause? He's going to be an engaging and wonderful speaker for us, Kelvin Taketa.
Okay, before everybody gets excited about the $1 billion thing, that's not me doing that. That's us doing that, okay? Thanks, Kim. I really enjoyed working with Kim as a great colleague when she was at Aloha United Way, and now that she's at Iolani School, I wore this shirt today for her, so having gone to a rival school. But I want to thank Kim, and I want to thank AFP for allowing me to join you this morning. The focus of this year's conference around sustainability generates a lot of interesting ideas, at least for me, that we can talk about today. And I'm going to just focus on one of them, but I promise you we'll have time at the end of this for a lot of conversation and Q&A. But if you think about it, sustainability in the context of organizations, what should one expect in terms of a life of a nonprofit, for example, when some clearly have a mission that you hope someday puts them out of business? Right, like curing cancer or literacy in Hawaii. And what are the secret sauce, if you will, critical ingredients that really contribute or propel an organization towards sustainability? You can start to think in your own mind of everything from talent management to systems to adaptability. Just so, I want to be sure that I pay credence to the fact that there's more about sustainability than financial sustainability. But today, we're going to talk about financial sustainability. And I want to start by spending a few minutes in paying homage and examining how our daily lives have been blessed through the generosity of others in the past, and to share some thoughts with you specifically about how legacy giving can work, and how, if we work together, we can unlock some of the greatest transfer of wealth in the history of this country to benefit our community. And so I hope there'll be times for us to talk about that at the end. But let me start by saying this much is clear. Hawaii has a long-standing history of generosity. The traditions of our host culture in sharing resources for the common good laid the groundwork for a powerful culture of giving that still exists in Hawaii today. Look around and you'll see the results of giving by others who came before you, starting with the Ali'i. Kamehameha I proclaimed, "Respect alike men great and humble. See to it that our aged, our women and our children, lie down by the roadside without fear from harm." What a powerful statement. And more than just words, the Ali'i really lived on this core value. They directed their resources to help generations of Native Hawaiians and many others get access to health care, child care, education, and support for kupuna. In 1859, Queen Emma and her husband Kamehameha IV set out on foot to solicit donations for what is now called the Queen's Medical Center, which includes the largest private hospital in Hawaii. Consider High Chief William Lunalilo, the 6th Hawaiian monarch. He was the first of the land-holding Ali'i to create a charitable trust for Native Hawaiians. In 1877, he willed his land for the creation of Lunalilo Home for the care of elderly men and women. Queen Kapiolani, wife of the 7th monarch Kalakaua, raised money to open the Kapiolani Maternity Home in 1890, which is now Kapiolani Medical Center for Women and Children. And recognizing that education was key to the survival of her people, the great-granddaughter of Kamehameha I, Princess Bernice Pauahi, willed 375,000 acres of Kamehameha family lands for the formation of Kamehameha schools. Followed by her husband, Charles Reed Bishop, who endowed Bishop Museum as a means of perpetuating the memory of his late wife and preserving the natural and cultural history of Hawaii. And following annexation, Queen Liliuokalani placed her lands in a trust that today supports the Queen Liliuokalani Children's Center. Now, these monumental acts of generosity and the motivation to give in perpetuity have benefited people, families, and communities in these islands for well over a century, and the impact can still be felt today. Another big source of philanthropy in the history of Hawaii grew from the contributions of missionary families, which began to arrive here from New England in 1819. Kamehameha III wanted to establish a school for Ali'i children, and Amos Starr Cook and his wife Juliet Montague Cook opened their house in 1839 for what became known as the Chief's Children's School. Their school educated the last 5 of Hawaii's 8 monarchs, as well as Princess Pauahi and other key figures in history. And a few years later, Governor Boki gave Reverend Bingham the land to found Punahou School. Then came the kindergarten movement, which began under the leadership of Francis Damon and Henry Castle, sons of the missionaries. Harriet Castle also led what became today's Kindergarten and Children's Aid Association, better known today as KCAA. Long mainstay missionary families also established family foundations. You'll recognize names such as Cook, Atherton, Castle, Wilcox. These foundations remain vitally important philanthropic institutions in our community. And charity was also organized early on by people from various ethnic groups that were originally brought to Hawaii as plantation laborers. Migrants from China, Japan, the Philippines, and elsewhere found ways to help their new community. Chinese immigrants were the first to arrive and the first to establish a philanthropic stake here through organizing societies and buying large houses to provide the old and poor with a free roof and a dry bed. The Chinese Christian churches opened settlement house projects in Chinatown, as well as the earliest ethnic YMCA. The Pololo Chinese Home, which opened in 1920, initially served aged plantation workers and today continues to serve a wide range of elderly residents. Japanese immigration followed by more than 3 decades in 1885. When the bubonic plague struck Honolulu in 1900, the houses of victims were torched by the Board of Health, and among the displaced were 3,500 Japanese. That was when the community formed its own benevolent society, which developed the Japanese hospital, now known as Kuokini Hospital. This idea of helping their own and then helping others continued with the founding of the German Benevolent Society, the British Benevolent Society, the Ladies Portuguese Charitable Association, and the Hawaiian Relief Fund. The Ali'i Trusts, the missionaries, cultural giving, these are just a few examples of how philanthropy is woven deeply into our history. Without question, the legacy that those individuals created helped shape the community we're living in today. And the most lasting effects of generosity have tended to come from legacy giving. That is the principal vehicle for enabling donors to reach beyond their lifetimes and support the well-being of generations to come. So here are a few modern-day examples of legacy giving that have changed our lives. In 1930, Mary Foster gave her 5.5-acre garden to the city and county of Honolulu to create Foster Botanical Garden. Upon her death, Doris Duke willed her house and created the Doris Duke Foundation for Islamic Art to support Shangri-La, now affiliated with the Honolulu Art Museum. In 2001, an Oregon resident named Kenneth Hoffman left $1.5 million, half of his estate, to Hawaii Public Libraries, despite visiting the downtown library only once for 10 minutes. Don't count on those, by the way. In 2005, Cordelia Scaife May left nearly 70 acres of land on Maui worth $3 million to the Nature Conservancy, who later donated to Haleakala National Park. And she also left a $1 million parcel to the National Tropical Botanical Garden on Kauai. In 2010, retired Kamehameha School Middle School principal Diana Lord left nearly $200,000 to the Salvation Army in Hawaii to support programs for the elderly. It came as a complete surprise, as she had no history of giving to the Salvation Army, but her caregiver had been a volunteer there. And this is one of my favorite, in 2003, Rose Perrin, some of you in this room, well, Suzanne sitting here knows who I'm talking about. Rose Perrin was a frugal woman who lived a humble existence. She actually came to Hawaii as a secretary for the U.S. Forest Service in 1963. Was a longtime volunteer and small annual donor at Hawaii Literacy. And when she passed away, she left a surprisingly large bequest of over $6 million to create a foundation that gave Hawaii Literacy its largest gift ever, as well as gifts to the Honolulu Opera Theater, Honolulu Symphony, and Bishop Museum. For the past 100 years, the Hawaii Community Foundation has played a role in the history of giving in the islands. It's been nothing short of a privilege to work with many generous philanthropists, from individuals to families and businesses, all of them wanting to create a better Hawaii. That is actually why the so-called Hawaiian Foundation was created in 1916. The original funding was generated by unclaimed deposits and assets left in banks by people who had passed away without a will. Slowly, the foundation became a repository for folks who wanted to give or leave behind their resources for broader public purposes. So through the years, the Hawaii Community Foundation has helped many people create legacies for the benefit of the community. So here are a few. Robert Black, who is a former chair of Hawaii Community Foundation, and who recognized the value of having a public foundation support the programs and passions of many donors. left a gift of $50 million, because of which 10 nonprofits receive income in perpetuity, and the Community Foundation is able to fund programs in education, culture and arts, and human services. Jack and Marie Lord, Jack of Hawaii Five-0 fame, left $40 million to the Community Foundation to benefit a dozen Hawaii nonprofits in 2006. And Maud Woodhouse left $122 million to benefit Punahou, Seabury Hall, Bishop Museum, Salvation Army, Hawaii Community Foundation, and many others. Her private dollars are one of the largest single sources of funding for the prevention of child abuse and neglect in the state of Hawaii. So when we look at the history of giving from the Ali'i Trust to current day, we know that philanthropy, or our need to help and care for each other, is part of the ethos of this island community and part of who we are as individuals. Now, we commissioned SMS Research to conduct a telephone survey of 900 households throughout the state on their charitable giving and volunteering. And the 2015 giving study follows up on 4 similar surveys conducted since 1999. So this is the audience participation part of my talk. So I'm going to ask you some questions in multiple choice, and you got to raise your hands, and we'll see where people end up. So the first question I'm going to ask you is, what percentage of households give in Hawaii? A, 75%, B, 88%, or C, 93%? How many say A, 75%? Okay. How many say B, 88%? Okay. How many say C, 93%? The correct answer is 93%. 93%, 9 out of 10 households in Hawaii engage in some form of giving, and nearly 2/3 of that give money. So some of them would give gifts in kind, and other things. So that's the number. Okay, second question. On average, how much do people give in cash each year? A, $1,578, B, $2,024, C, $3,045. $3,445. How many believe it's A, 1,578? Okay. How many say B, 2,000? Okay. How many say C, 3,400? Okay. Now, you guys can't clump around the middle answers all thinking that's the right answer. We got to have some courageous outliers here. But the answer is B. The average total cash giving is $2,024. And while this number has increased over time, it lags behind the increase of the national average over that same period of time. So here's question number 3. How much of the giving stays in Hawaii? A, 70%, B, 85%, C, 95%. How many say A, 70%? How many say B, 85%? How many say C, 95%? The answer is A, 70%. Those people that raised their hands on that one probably came to our nonprofit conference earlier in the year. Yeah, so that's a really surprising number, because that means 175 million left Hawaii to go to outside charities that are headquartered outside of Hawaii, which is an increase from 2008 of basically almost $100 million. So that's a really interesting one. Last question. What age group has the largest number of givers? A, 35 to 44, B, 45 to 54, or C, 55 to 65? Okay, who may say A? Wow. Wow, okay. How many say B, 45 to 54? How many say C, 55 to... Wow. It's B. The highest participation in giving is during the highest wage earning period, which is 45 to 54. Its highest amounts of giving tend to increase with the person's age, and the average ratio of giving to net income in the state is 2.7%. But the average among highest income earners is 1.7%. So actually, the lower income earner brackets are more generous in this community than the higher income earner bracket. No editorial commentary about that. So, thank you for participating in the quiz. It's a mandatory part of our speeches, and we'll do it again next time. So let me just share some other things with you. So while we continue to have high levels of household giving, we learned that those with the greatest resources have the most potential to grow. And that's especially true in the area of legacy giving. So here's some interesting facts for you. There are over 30,000 high net worth households in Hawaii. Okay, you're asking what that means. Tom Kelly and Paul Keenan are both here, and Joe Marnick. They're all with our staff, and Linnell Marble, who many of you know, is sort of fact checks everything I say. So I'm going to try to get this right. Over 30,000 high net worth households that are defined by households who have $2 million of investable assets. Are we using 2 or 1? $1 million. There I go. $1 million of investable assets, not including their home. Okay? So that's a pretty high bar. 30,000 high net worth households, that's about 7% of all the households in Hawaii, by the way. And of that 30,000 high net households, 73% do not yet have a charitable organization in their estate plan. Almost 3/4. And so this is where Hawaii can improve. Nationally, about 30% of all high net worth households have committed to leaving a gift to their community after their passing, compared to only 19% in Hawaii. Okay, so what does that mean for us? If we can work to encourage the 23,000 households that do not have a charitable plan as part of their estate, to make a commitment to leave just 10% of their estate to charity or to the community, which is, by the way, the national average of people who have said they're going to leave something to charity. It's about 10%. All right, that means over $5.7 billion in incremental philanthropy for Hawaii. Okay, let me say it again: 23,000 households have no plans for charity yet in their wills. If they were to leave 10% of their estates to charity, a very conservative estimate done by Paul Keenan, our mathematician on our staff. Paul, stand up, raise your hand, so everybody, if you want to really find out the magic behind those numbers, you can see Paul after we're done. That would mean almost $6 billion.